Some people look lazy on the outside. They sleep late, they procrastinate, they delay things that seem important. And from the outside, everyone thinks the same thing. They have no ambition. But what most people never see is the war happening inside their mind. Because these people don't lack dreams. They actually have too many of them. They imagine a better life constantly, a successful career, freedom, recognition, a version of themselves that feels powerful and proud. But somehow, every day ends the same way. Another plan postponed, another goal delayed, another promise to themselves quietly broken. And the most painful part? They know they're capable of more. If you've ever felt this strange contradiction, feeling incredibly ambitious in your mind, but strangely lazy in your actions, then what you're experiencing is more common and deeper than people realize. Imagine this. It's late at night. You're lying in bed, scrolling through your phone. You watch someone your age becoming successful, launching a business, building a following, traveling the world, and suddenly your mind explodes with ideas. You start imagining your own future. Maybe you'll start a channel, write a book, build something meaningful, change your life completely. For a few minutes, it feels real. You feel motivated, inspired. Your brain starts designing the future version of you. But then, morning comes, and something strange happens. The excitement disappears, the energy fades, and the smallest task suddenly feels heavy. So you delay it. I'll start tomorrow. And tomorrow quietly becomes next week, then next month, then someday. But here's the part most people misunderstand. This isn't simple laziness. In many cases, it's actually a psychological conflict happening beneath the surface. Ambitious people don't just dream big. They also imagine the entire journey, the effort, pressure, the expectations, the possibility of failing publicly. And when the brain sees a huge mountain ahead, it sometimes protects you in a strange way. It shuts down motivation, not because you're incapable, but because your mind senses emotional risk. The more ambitious the dream is, the more intimidating the first step becomes. So instead of moving forward, your brain escapes into something easier. Scrolling, daydreaming, planning without acting. It feels safer there. Now pause for a moment and think about something. Have you ever noticed how your motivation suddenly spikes at night when there's no pressure to act immediately, when the future feels distant? In those moments, your mind is free to dream. But when morning arrives, reality demands action, and action means risk. Risk of embarrassment, risk of failure, risk of discovering that the dream might not work out. So the brain hesitates, it stalls, and from the outside, it looks like laziness. There's also another hidden layer most people never talk about. Many lazy but ambitious people are actually extremely self-aware. They constantly analyze themselves. They overthink every decision. Before starting something, they imagine 10 different outcomes. They wonder, what if it doesn't work? What if people judge me? What if I lose motivation halfway? So they wait for the perfect moment to begin, the perfect idea, the perfect energy, the perfect plan. But perfection never arrives, and waiting slowly turns into inactivity. Real ambition is not always loud. Sometimes it hides quietly inside people who feel stuck, inside people who constantly feel like they're wasting their potential, inside people who say things like, I know I could do more, I just don't know why I'm not doing it. That sentence carries a very specific kind of pain, because it's not about lacking ability, it's about feeling disconnected from your own drive, like your mind and your actions are out of sync. But here's the twist that most people never realize. Many so-called lazy, ambitious people aren't actually lazy at all. They're mentally exhausted. Their brains spend so much energy imagining the future, analyzing possibilities, questioning themselves, that by the time it's time to act, they're already drained. Thinking replaced doing. Dreaming replaced starting. Look at some of the most creative people, writers, artists, entrepreneurs. Many of them go through long periods of inactivity, not because they don't care, but because the pressure they place on themselves is enormous. They don't want to create something average. They want to create something meaningful, and that expectation alone can freeze progress. Now here's something important to reflect on. What if the real problem isn't laziness, but the size of the dream? When the goal feels huge, distant, and overwhelming, the brain naturally resists starting. It's like standing at the base of a massive mountain. Even if you want to reach the top, the climb feels impossible, so you sit down instead. Not because you're weak, but because the journey looks endless. But something interesting happens when the mountain becomes smaller, when the goal changes from, I must transform my entire life, to something simpler,
like, today I'll just start. Just one step, just one small action, just proof to your brain that movement is possible. Because ambition doesn't die from laziness, it dies from overwhelm, from expectations that are too heavy to carry at once. And once the brain feels overwhelmed long enough, it begins to protect itself with avoidance. So if you've ever felt like a lazy person with big dreams, maybe the truth is something different. Maybe you're someone who thinks deeply, someone who imagines powerful futures, someone who cares more than people realize. But you've been trying to move mountains in a single day, and mountains were never meant to be moved that way. They're climbed slowly, quietly, one step at a time. Because the strange truth about ambition is this: the people who feel the most frustrated with themselves are often the ones who secretly want the most from life. They don't want an ordinary story, they want a meaningful one. And sometimes that kind of story begins with years of confusion, self-doubt, and the quiet feeling that you are meant for more. So if you recognize yourself in this struggle, remember something important. Being slow doesn't mean you're stuck. Being confused doesn't mean you're incapable. And feeling lazy doesn't mean you lack ambition. Sometimes it simply means your mind is still trying to figure out how to carry the weight of your dreams.